Hi, this is Pat Johnson, your psychology instructor, and in this mini lecture we're going to talk about the concepts of sensation and perception, and also we'll mention an interesting disorder showing the difference between sensation and perception. So, think of sensation as the biological aspect of receiving information from the environment and transmitting that information to the brain. So in sensation, specialized receptors, in other words, neurons in your eyes, in your ears, in your tongue, are receiving information from the environment and transmitting that to the brain. So we can see here that it could be light energy, it could be chemical energy, whether you taste it or smell it. It could be mechanical energy, such as feeling sound waves or wind, feeling a breeze, and that is transmitted to these specialized receptor cells that they are specially formed to be able to change that energy into a action potential and make a neuron fire, and that goes to the brain. So sensation, biological, getting information from the environment and transmitting it to the brain to be interpreted. Perception is where the interpretation happens. So perception is the process by which the brain organizes and interprets information gathered from sensory input. So perception is where our brain has received that information through the process of sensation, and now the brain tries to make sense of it. So this is a very famous illusion where some people immediately see two faces if they focus on the white, where this would be the forehead and this would be the eyes, the nose, the lips, the chin, and the neck. And the same on this side. Other people focus on the black and they see a vase or a goblet, and the white just fades into the background. So whether you see a face or a goblet immediately is showing the process of perception, how your brain is organizing and interpreting this information. Now, your textbook mentions a woman by the name of Heather Sellers, who wrote a book called You Don't Look Like Anyone I Know, and Heather and myself share a disorder called prosopagnosia, or face blindness. And face blindness is a problem of perception. So what Heather Sellers can't do at all, and I have problems doing, as do my father and my sister, is recognizing faces. Now, we often have people tell us, oh, I know what that feels like because I can't remember names. Well, face blindness and not being able to remember names are nothing alike. In face blindness, it's not that we know the person and just don't know who they are. If you have face blindness, you walk through life not knowing if you know people or not. So it's kind of like walking around and everybody you encounter has a bag over their head because they all look alike. Now, I see perfectly fine, so does my sister, so does my father, so does Heather Sellers. There's nothing wrong with our ability to sense the visual environment. What our brains don't have the capacity to do, or in my family's case, does fairly poorly, I only have moderate face blindness, is able to interpret what our face sees, or what our eyes see, and interpret it as a distinct face. So for example, I have mild face blindness, mild to moderate face blindness. I would only be able to tell these women apart by their hair. We with face blindness use a lot of techniques to try to distinguish one person from the other. So we like when people have distinct hair, or tattoos, or um, birthmarks or something like that, scars, and we will recognize people by cues other than their facial features because all faces look fairly similar to us. So I use things like hair color, facial scars, height, sound of voice, race, hair texture, all of those things, but what my brain cannot distinguish is one face from another. So, for example, it makes it challenging to be a teacher because I have to encounter lots of people every day, mostly young adults, and the faces look very similar to me. So I cope by using a seating chart. I cope by sometimes taking notes on students without them knowing it so that I can tell them apart. But young people, especially young females, especially if they're blonde and they all look alike, there's not really anything unique about them unless they have different hair or different body types, because face blindness just faces aren't that unique. So when I watch a movie, I will always ask the person who's watching the movie with me, who is that? Who is that? Did that person change clothing, or is that a different person? When I am out in public, I often have people say, "Hey Pat, how you doing?" And I fake it and I say, "Oh, I'm just fine. How are you?" And then as the conversation goes on, I try to get cues out of the conversation as to whom I'm talking to. Now, people I know very well, I can recognize by face, my family members, students I've had numerous times, my coworkers, close friends. I can recognize those people by their faces. But if I have only met somebody um, a few times, I will not know who they are unless there's something extremely unique about them. So I always tell my students, don't be offended if I just give you kind of a fake smile and talk to you in kind of a generic way, because I really have no idea who you are. I have a problem of perception, not sensation. Remember, sensation is the brain getting information in from our senses, and perception is the brain organizing that information. And for most of you, you do not have face blindness. You see people and can recognize them very easily. And that's good because it makes life a whole lot easier than those of us who have face blindness.